welcome back, Jay. I guess you're back at the video editing table with your film.
Yes, I am. It's a never-ending process, and I now know what it's like when I hear filmmakers say, "Oh, it took me 5 years to make a film," and so I'm redoing and rehashing, and it's a learning process, which is what it was started out to be anyway. It wasn't meant to make money. It was really just, can I go make a low-budget film that looks like a big-budget film, and I'm still in that process, so it will be out one day, folks, but it is delayed.
Did you I assume you edited me out, right?
No, you're still the bad guy.
Always. All right, okay. Wasn't it fun when we used to be able to talk about, did the astronauts really go to the moon or not? Look at the stuff we're getting hit with around the clock now. Every week or every 2 weeks is another big deal. We got Ed Snowden now, and whatever that is, and I don't know what it is because he hasn't really said anything that I can determine is new. You and I knew exactly what was going on. Our listeners mostly did too. So all he has done is somehow magically gotten the ear of the MSM. I mean, he pops up on The Guardian with his story. This is, again, this really,
about it.
That's right. Well, this is really old news. It's not news.
Well, it is, but this is all, I believe that he's, of course, he worked for Bose Allen, and I think he's, we know he's got CIA, and I think he's part of this kind of the thing that I keep talking about, bringing it up, which is, I believe it's a war now has broken out among the elites, and there's a faction that really bet heavily on Romney to win, and
they're not happy.
No, they believe that they think it's impossible that Romney got 3 million fewer votes than McCain, so they think there's shenanigans going on. And this secret group's it's a military group, and it's been in the military for a long time. I actually, in the early 90s, I met one of them. He was a Navy SEAL, and he'd heard my radio show that I had in Seattle, and he wanted to talk to me. And he never told me his name, but he told me that there was this group within the military that knew everything that was going on, and that it was a group of patriots, and they're mostly special forces and things like that, and that they had, that they were infiltrating and trying to find a way to expose what was really happening. And I wasn't really all that wise back then, 20 years ago, 1992, and I didn't quite believe him, actually. And then about maybe a month into our relationship, he asked me to go out and have coffee with him. He showed me, I could look at it, but I couldn't take it. He showed me the newsletter for this group. And the newsletter,
what form was it? Electronic, and then he printed it out? So you
it was done with print, obviously on a printer, and it was done with 8.5 by 11, 4 sheets of paper, really small print with a lot of stories.
When was this?
92.
Okay, makes sense. All right.
And to be honest with you, what I read that day in that coffee shop looks like Rense.com today. I'm not kidding you. Wow. It was like that. It was that wild. It was so wild. Even I, who had a pretty large perimeter for belief, was going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he was kind of smirking at me because it was shocked me so much. Anyway, what the upshot of this whole story is that he told me that this group, the secret military group, had infiltrated DARPA, and that they were a paramount influence on the creation of the Internet. And I didn't know at that time even quite what the Internet was. I'd read stories about it, knew it was coming out, and I'd gotten on it in some cafes, but I never really didn't quite entertain what it really was going to be.
Sure.
And he said it's going to be something that we're going to build that you can never take down. And I remember that. And then when I've been thinking about that group lately, because it's obvious since Obama's reelection that somebody's thrown a monkey wrench into everything the guy's doing. And Snowden is just the latest of a series of orchestrated first it started out as exposures of false flags, Sandy Hook and Boston.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
now it's emerging into the full release of the information that you and I all know. It's very important that the people of the United States understand that they have been calling us conspiracy theorists for saying all of this stuff for the last 15, 20 years. And now we're finding out, one after another, that each of those so-called conspiracy theories are not theories at all. They're true. They're conspiracy facts.
Right.
And so if we're right that many times, what are we wrong about? And the answer is we're probably not wrong about all the rest of the things that are being speculated.
Not much.
Nope.
Well,
Snowden is just ahead of this war against Obama, and I'm not saying they're good guys, because they're not. They're just against Obama.
Well, he described himself as a senior CIA advisor in that first video he released, among other things, which sounded kind of flaky. Here's a guy, not even a high school diploma, a GED, making $200,000 a year. Now, how does that happen, folks? How does somebody go into something and vault to the top, basically $200,000 a year, and then do this? It could be NSA, CIA rivalries. I don't know. There are obviously factions all over the place.
Yep. But this is a more united faction. This is something that appears to be spread out. And then when I'll even go further here, I believe that it's this faction that is the number one goal of all these programs that Obama's initiated. That's who they're looking for. They're looking for this faction. This faction that's inside. They know the information. They know what's going to happen. They're insiders.
Well, that's part of that reflects on his obvious war on whistleblowers. I think that's just kind of window dressing to what you're talking about, which is the real goal, trying to root out this problem that is obviously not happy with what is going on there. What amazes me, though, and I'm not advocating this for a minute, political murder is a fact, not only a fact of life here, it's commonplace in this country.
Oh, yeah.
At what level, it doesn't matter. At every level. So Obama is still there, breaking the law every day. Everything the guy's done since he assumed office is illegal. It should be thrown out on the face of it because he's a fraud. Nobody's really physically doing anything about this. And I'm not suggesting anybody be killed here, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had another major issue here. We had John Kennedy, we had Ronald Reagan was shot, Gerald Ford he could have been taken out. Think about it. And then a lot of things we don't know about.
I think you're on to maybe possibly the next false flag, which would really, they would get their agenda completely. And they wouldn't have to resort to dire things like war and things like that. I hope that doesn't happen, because I love America and I don't want it to be ripped asunder by such an event. And so if you're out there thinking about it, stop it. It's a terrible, terrible thing to even have, because he's a father and he has children, and no matter what you think of him personally.
There are other ways to deal with this issue that must be pursued. That isn't even on the table.
That's right. So, but the thing is that he has been targeted. These scandals are on schedules, and I think,
Jay, excuse me, isn't it amazing how he has been able to duck the biggest and most obvious scandal that he is homosexual? This is amazing to me, and it's only through the complicity and certainly the acquiescence, if not the advocacy, of the Zionist mainstream media. They're protecting this guy. They could take him down without harming a hair on his head within 24 to 48 hours if they turn on him. It's that simple.
That's right. And that hasn't happened.
So it's not.
He hasn't pissed off the wrong people yet.
Not yet.
That's right. But the people that he has pissed off are against those people. That is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. It is a faction that has identified the criminal organization that's ruling the country, and knows that he's part of it, and is trying to stop this final plan that they have in place. And that's what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Make no mistake. We are in the throes of the final plan of their little Marxist takeover.
Yeah, you can feel it. You can feel it. It's a crescendo. You can feel it. Everything's moving towards some enormous conclusion, some I won't call it a resolution because I don't think there's going to be a resolution, but something big is going to happen here.
Yep.
And
there's an event coming.
Yeah, an event. Okay, that's a perfect word. Who knows where the saga of Ed Snowden is going to end up? We had the unpleasant revelation of his girlfriend, who described herself as a, what was it? A
pole dancing.
Superhero pole dancer or something like that. I don't know. Okay. Another reflection of a society that is really obviously falling apart at the seams and everywhere else. He's in Hong Kong now. He may go to Russia. This is interesting. Now, a little side note, and I've said this before. The Russians have said, I don't know who asked them to make a statement, but that should he apply for political asylum in Russia, would be given complete and immediate consideration. Now, that would be kind of amusing if they continue to play this role that he is a martyr and a hero, and the Russians give him political sanctuary. Putin has quite a laugh at America's expense, or Israel's expense, or whoever's behind this. That would be an interesting little gambit to see unfold.
Yeah, I've always wondered if this whole situation that's going on in the world right now, it won't end up in a most ironic situation where Putin invades the United States to save it from Marxism.
That's good. That's very good.
I can actually see that now, occurring.
That's what
and I'm begging him to do it.
Yeah. So that's what you're working into Shasta. I get it.
Yeah.
Red Dawn.
Yeah, the opposite. Red Dawn kind of in reverse.
Red Sunset. Okay.
Where they come to save us from the red.
Yeah. Very funny.
It is.
Okay.
I wish that's the only laugh I could probably come up with in a world that's going a little bit south. But
100,000 dead in Syria. 100,000 dead, wow. And Obama said he's crossed the line. They've used chemical weapons on their people, and 150 are dead. Now, first of all, anybody with half a brain knows that possibly we'll never know who used it. Probably we'll never know who used chemical weapons in Syria. Most likely the terrorist mercenaries used them. It's a typical.
Absolutely. We know that Hillary sold the Stinger missiles to the Al Qaeda in Libya.
Exactly.
That's
right.
the whole reason Stevens got killed.
Right.
Because they were trying to buy back the Stingers.
Yep.
And they still got those Stingers.
Yeah.
They got like 200 of them. They could, you're talking about bringing down airplanes. I mean,
yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Syrian rebels have all sorts of high technology.
Yeah.
Because of who's funding them.
4,500 Marines on the Jordanian-Syrian border, ready obviously to. They're having war games now. They're preparing. We'll see. Our Zionist masters, of course, are going to order us to invade. They've been trying to get it to happen, but they'll make the ultimate decision because their masters, the Rothschild banksters and the City of London, control the shots here. And if there is to be an invasion, it'll simply be sent down from the City of London through Netanyahu or somebody else, and the City of London will keep its hands clean. That plausible deniability.
But everybody must pay taxes and be under their banking system. That's part of the deal.
Well, as you know, Libya and Iraq attempted to step outside the central banking model and were obliterated for it. And then we got 3 countries left in the world who do not operate under a central banking model, and that's Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. Of course, all marked for political extermination, as it were. What was the first announcement? I love this. What was the first announcement of the so-called rebels in Libya when they captured Benghazi? What was their first formal announcement? It was that the new Central Bank of Libya was open for business. That was it.
That's the very first thing that Paul Bremer did when he landed in Iraq. When he was the ostensible head of Iraq in the interim. First thing he did was dissolve all of the banks in Iraq and put them under a central bank, which was under the auspices of the Central Bank of London. There's no doubt about it. That's the first thing he did.
No.
He did nothing else. He didn't secure the oil fields or anything. He started the banking system.
By the way, Iraq has more oil than Saudi Arabia. Iraq has enormous oil. That was the secret. I read it before the Iraq War, before Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. The Iraqis had enormous oil. Now, who else has enormous oil, ladies and gentlemen? You folks probably know this. The Saudis have about 600 to 700 billion barrels of recoverable crude. That's what the best estimates project. Who has 5 trillion barrels of recoverable crude oil? Venezuela. And that's why Capriles, the Zionist candidate who claims he's a Catholic, has been put in there, and the Maduro government, who succeeded the murdered Hugo Chavez, now has captured 9 people they say were in there to assassinate Maduro. The Zionists want Venezuela. They've got Bolivia. They control Bolivia. They want Venezuela. They own Mexico. If you do a search, and the editor of an activist Latino newspaper in L.A. told me, and in fact wrote about it, if you do a search on the actual heritage, the national origins of the top people in the Mexican government, you will find that they're almost all Jews. They emigrated here, sure, 100 years ago or whatever, but they're Jews. Same thing. So we cannot get away from look, 0.2% of the world population, at the most, controls how much of the world? The great majority of it, that's for sure. And they have a death grip on it. And Jay, as I've said so many times, they will not give it up. They'll take the whole damn thing down first. No way.
Oh, indeedy duty. That's exactly right. That's it's called overreach, and and that's what's going on right now. Is the overreach, and then the slam back, and then it'll just be turned into total destruction. That's what's about to happen.
Indeed.
And people who are psychopathic don't realize that they can lose until it's too late. That's one thing that they always seem to do. They push and they push and they push, always overreaching, and then there's a certain point where the system breaks and can no longer take the pushing.
Well,
and they're the most surprised of all when the final death blow is coming straight towards them.
We'll see.
And yeah,
we'll see. All right, back in just a minute. Jeff and Jay will continue in just a few.